And good morning YouTube. Another bright and sunny day here in Cheshire in the UK. Welcome to Simply Diagnostics. Before we start, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell for the notifications. You can also follow me on Twitter at P0651, on my Facebook page Simply Diagnostics Northwich. Comments and criticisms always welcome. If you've got something to say, put it down in the comment box below and we'll get a conversation started. Thanks for watching. Right, today we're going to just do a bit of a post-mortem on the T5 that I did the other day. Log in P0651 reference circuit B, open circuit. I did actually record a video for this with a follow-up, doing all the wiring checks and voltage checks and stuff like that. But unfortunately it was a very windy, snowy day. My camera kept getting blown over, my lens was covered in snow. It was just an absolute disaster. When I reviewed the footage, there was nothing at all that I could use in the edit. So this follow-up is going to be basically screen grabs, a screen capture of me running through the wiring diagrams, what I found and how we rectified the fault. So stick with it. Again, apologies there was no real-time footage off the vehicle. But if you enjoyed it, if you got anything out of it, please leave a thumbs up, subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. You can also follow me on Twitter at P0651, where you'll get notifications of videos that I've uploaded and notifications that I'm going live and things like that. So thanks for watching. Now, when I first went out to this vehicle, it was logging two DTCs. P0651 sensor reference voltage B, open circuit, and P0236 G31 pressure sensor implausible signal. And if you remember in the previous video when we were doing a wiggle test on the wiring loom for the G31 and we were back probed on pin 3 on the G31, you could see the voltage dropping up and down. So we found that stress factor in that wire about 3 inches back from the sensor, and we repaired that, and then we ended up with 1.6 volts on that wire instead of the 1 volt 5 volt flickering on and off. So basically what I did then, I had to confirm that what I was seeing at the sensor at pin 3 on the sensor, I was actually getting the same on pin 17 at the ECU. There's quite an involved process, bumper off, battery off, ECU box off and all that to try and get to that, but once we got it all uncovered, we could start the real testing. The first test we did was I volt dropped the wire from pin 17, 1 lead in my multimeter and pin 3 on the sensor, just to check there was no voltage drop on that wire, and there wasn't, so I was quite happy with that. And what we did have at pin 17 was 1.6 volts in the initial key on. That 1.6 volts, after about 30 minutes, all of a sudden magically it decided to become 5 volts. So we're obviously looking at a temperature related fault within the 5 volt regulator or associated circuits, but with it being a single output from a single pin to a single component, it had me a little bit confused for a while. It was then a good friend of mine, Paul Emmett, reminded me that even though it was shown as a single output, multiple outputs may share the same 5 volt regulator within the ECU. So what we had to do then was we had to look between all the 5 volt outputs that were listed for the ECU. We had to look and try and find which ones were common to each other. So scrolling through down through the pin data, A17 was the pin that we had concern with. That was the grey red, and we also have a 5 volt on 13, 14, 15, B10 and B25, and what we found was that A17 and B25 were common, so we needed to look at the components that were on those 2 pins. So basically what we found, B20, the components that shared the same 5-volt reg are A17 and B25 were the intake air flap actuator position sensor, the turbocharged vane position sensor, the fuel rail pressure sensor, the crank position sensor, and the EGR position sensor. So basically what we did then, whilst monitoring the 5-volt reference here at A17, it was 1.6 and what we were looking for was 5 volts. Whilst monitoring that, I went and unplugged the components one at a time to see if it made any difference, and none of them did until we got to the EGR position sensor. The moment I unplugged that, my 5-volt reference came back. So basically what was happening was while the component was cold, the EGR position sensor was pulling the voltage down to 1.6 volts, but then after a period of time something was happening internally on the EGR position sensor, which was allowing it to return to its normal 5-volt output. Just to confirm that a new EGR valve has actually fixed this issue. So what we will say is even on the manufacturer's wiring diagrams, it shows no commonality between the 5-volt outputs, pin 17 on the 94 pin connector and pin 25 on the smaller connector. You clearly see there it's one leg going to one pin on the ECU, and then if we go over the same, there's our shared output then from pin 25 on the 60 pin connector. So not shown on any wiring diagrams. You'd be struggling to find that unless you had a mate like Paul Emmett that was kind enough to remind you that it's always the basics, and we go back to basic checks and the basic principles, and that's what it boiled down to this time. I got a little bit ahead of myself. I was really close to condemning the ECU. I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad I asked for help, and a satisfactory outcome for all concerned. So again, if you like the video, please leave a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Tap the bell for notifications. Follow me on Twitter at @PicoFlu. And just once again, thanks for spending your time watching my videos. You guys are awesome. Catch you next time.